Noise.
Nice.
Okay. So, yeah, thanks for meeting with us so much. Yeah, this is actually my bishop, guys, so he was gracious enough to help us out.
Go, Bishop.
My pleasure. And you can call me Isaac, and Caden can call me Isaac too. He just doesn't know that. My pleasure meeting with you guys. I'm happy to chat anything for Caden. So what are we doing today, fellas?
Thank you. So I think I told you a little bit about it. So we each have different roles that we're supposed to go over. So I'm playing the CEO role, and you guys can tell them what you guys are.
Yeah, I'm doing the HR. Yeah.
I'm doing Chief Operating Officer.
Great.
So yeah, we're each gonna have we're each supposed to have 5 questions for you, and yeah, you can just answer however you want and give us your wisdom.
Boy, I hope you're not disappointed.
And I think we're actually like limited, like I think we have like an hour time limit or something, so
Okay.
I guess just yeah, don't feel pressured to give super detailed long answers, but if you want to, then that's still
Okay.
whatever.
Yeah, we'll just
you
do
answer.
whatever you guys want to do, whatever's most helpful.
Okay, so I guess I can go first with my questions. So first, I guess, could you just like give us an introduction of your company and what it does? Maybe talk about what you personally do in it as well.
Yeah, happy to. So I work for a company called CU Solutions Group. We sell, among other things, we sell software. My title is Senior Director of Growth and Strategy. And so my job entails overseeing product development for 2 of our applications. I oversee sales in our primary vertical. I oversee lead generation for our primary vertical, and I oversee implementation and client success for 2 of our applications. So that's what I do.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Sweet, thanks. So then my next question is how do you go about managing the time within your business and company, and what are some of like the tactics you try to use?
Way to use the word tactic. So the question is like time management. How do we manage time effectively?
Mm-hmm.
So the way you manage time effectively is to say no to a lot of things. And in any business, you're always going to have to choose, and you also have to know what your priorities are. So you try to understand what you're trying to do, and then you figure out what's material. So when I say what's material, I mean, what are like the core things that you're supposed to be doing? And then you put all your efforts into those core things, and all these little other tiny things, you push them away and let other people make the decisions about that. So as a leader, you can't make all the tiny little decisions. You have to make the big picture decisions and let other smart people figure out how to make those other smaller decisions. Does that answer that question?
Oh yeah, that was really good. Thanks. My next question is.
You're welcome, Caden.
Thank you. So yeah, the next question is, what specifically is like a difficult problem or one of the most difficult aspects with time management in your company? So like an example, I guess, that something that is difficult or a problem, I guess.
So one thing that I worked on today was we have a lead generation process. And our lead generation, it's not really a process, but we have a portfolio approach. And what that means is that we do a little bit of this, we do a little bit of that, we do a little bit of this. So we kind of we're not just a one-trick pony when it comes to lead generation. We try a bunch of different things. And that's important. So I was looking at one of our lead gen things that we do. And I was looking at it today, and we're not getting as many leads from it as I want us to be able to get. So I reach out to the person who I have in charge of that, and I say, you know, give me an idea of how much time you spend on this particular thing each week. And he comes back and he says, I spend 4 to 5 hours a week on this particular thing. And so from a time management standpoint, I just have to make a judgment call. If I had him spend 4 or 5 hours on something different, could he generate more leads for me? And at the end of the day, I said, no, I think this is generating 4 to 5 hours worth of leads. And I think his 4 to 5 hour investment is generating enough leads for us to keep going down this road. So let's keep it going. Does that answer that question?
Yeah, I think that was good. Yeah, that was a good example.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. And then,
So I would just point out that a lot of that stuff is just a judgment call that you guys as business leaders will make. So.
Sweet. Yeah, thanks. You pretty much, so my next question was kind of like a follow-up, like, what did you do to deal with that? But I think you pretty much answered that as well. Then your excellent answer. And then,
Ooh, I got 2 for 1.
yeah. And then, so then my last question is a bit more general. It's not so much about like your company, but it's more like, I know that you have a lot of knowledge and wisdom to help us with. So what do you personally what do you personally think sets apart a great CEO from other CEOs?
The best thing a CEO can do is have a clear and viable vision, and then help communicate that to people and help them to do their jobs. So oftentimes when you think about a CEO like cartoons, it's this big guy that barks an order, and then all the peons have to go run and scamper around and do all the little things, right? That's not a good CEO. A good CEO creates like an emotionally healthy environment, and they say, hey, this is what we're trying to do. I feel passionate about this. And then you also have to have this, you have to vet that idea, right? Some ideas are not good ideas. And as a CEO, you have to make sure that your idea is going to work. Otherwise, your business suffers. So you really have to do your homework on that. And that's probably a discussion for another day. And then you have to give your employees the ability to do their job. So part of what my job is as a manager is to eliminate roadblocks for my employees. When my employee comes to me and she says, hey, this part of my job is way too hard. What if we did X, Y, and Z? Well, my job is to get X, Y, and Z done for her. So in some sense, I'm her, in some sense, she's my boss. She's telling me what she needs done. And I go and do that because I have the title to make that happen. And so if you think about it from a gospel perspective, it's very much, the Savior was the servant leader. And it's very much the same thing with successful CEOs. They are there to serve the people that are beneath them, and have a vision and guide those people. So anyway, does that answer that?
Oh yeah. Nice. Yeah. So
cool.
That's all of my questions. Yeah. I think your answers were really good. Like you hit like a like a lot of things that we have discussed in class and stuff. So that was really good.
Cool. Great. All right. What's next?
Yeah. Who wants, I don't know, Flo, do you want to go next?
All right. Okay, my turn. Okay, so pretty much my role here is the CHRO, or the people management. So my first question is, how do you keep your employees become motivated doing work, stuff like that?
Yeah. So part of it comes down to, well, part of it I would say is the responsibility of the CEO to have that vision. The other thing that HR can do, the specific thing HR can do, is help create an emotionally healthy culture. So if I have a workplace where my managers are yelling at their employees to get the job done, those employees are going to feel demoralized, right? They're not going to feel like they want to do a good job. And there's lots of research about that. So the number one thing an HR person can do is to create a healthy work environment. So I would say it starts with that. And also, just a minute ago, I was talking about how it's my job as a manager to help make my employees' jobs easier. And so, Flo, your job as the theoretical HR person, you're kind of the boss of all of these different organizations. And so your job is to do that same thing. Your job is to see where there are struggles and create policies company-wide that can help people. So another thing that HR is really that's really beneficial about HR is that they understand the challenges in each of the business units. So business unit A may have a challenge, and they don't know that business unit B has a solution already. And so HR person can kind of look down and say, oh, A, I want you to talk to B because I think they've got some things that can help you out. So that's something that would be important as a CHRO.
I see. Wow. Thank you so much. Okay. So for this, for just general kind of type question, what are the characteristics or work ethics that you are looking for your employees?
So the number one thing that I'm looking for right now are people who, I guess there are a couple of things. One is that I hire smart people. I do that to compensate for my own lack of smartness. So you always want to have smart people around you. And so I hire people who are smart and who know how to work well as a team. Because we can train to the specifics of our products, we can train to the specifics of our culture, but I got to find people who are smart and know how to play nice with others.
Got it. Nice. Okay. So like, there's a third question. Was there like a time where you made a decision where you like not sort of punish, but like when your like employee made a mistake, you kind of like punish him like that? Were there like a time that you did that?
Yeah. I just put them all in timeout. I tell them, listen, go to your rooms. I am tired.
Oh.
Just kidding. That's not true. So what we call that is, and you're right, it's not really punish. It's more like constructive feedback is what we typically call it, right? There's a really good book called Vital Smarts, or called Crucial Conversations. And I use some of the tactics from that book. And basically what I try to do, I always have an open dialogue with my employees. So if I'm not satisfied with something, I tell them. But I tell them in a way that they know that I care about them and they know they're not going to lose their jobs, because employees always are worried that they're going to lose their job. And if a boss comes and says, hey, you're not doing a good job at this, A, B, and C, that makes an employee feel really defensive and really scared. That can be a scary thing. I know because I've been scared like that before as an employee. And so the way to do that is you say, employee, I want to talk with you. And you always have to have like a good, strong relationship with your employees. You just always have to, first and foremost, you have to really care about them. And if you really care about them, they're going to feel cared for and they're going to do a better job for you. But when you have to give constructive feedback, the way I would do that is I'd say, Flo, can I talk with you about something for a couple of minutes? And then I'd pull you aside. I wouldn't do it in public. Just like the gospel says, you don't chastise somebody in public. Pull them aside, say, hey, talk with me about something. I've noticed that you've been coming in later and later and later recently. Now, that's kind of inconsistent with the way that I see you, Flo, because you are you're really conscientious about your job. You work so well with other people, and the customers really like you. So help me understand it. That's how I'm seeing is that you keep coming in late. Is there something going on, or am I missing something? And so that's kind of how I approach it. And then you might say, no, I've been coming in late, but it's because my mom is sick, or it's because of this or that. And then I, as a boss, need to be able to support you in that and work something out. And so can I tell you a quick story?
Yeah.
All right. So there was a time I felt like I was giving my employees some latitude. She was one of my employees some latitude. She was working from home more often. And I felt like when she was working from home, she was less responsive to me. And I worry that, she's not working very hard. And so I said, hey, Laura, can I run something by you real quick? And I said, hey, this is what I've noticed. When you work from home, I want you to work from home because I think you like it. And, I think it's good for you. I think it gives you a break. But I've noticed that you're a lot less responsive via email when you're working from home than when you're in the office. Is there something going? That's my feeling. Is that right or wrong? And Laura said, well, gosh, I really don't feel like I am. But I have been doing these extra projects, which keep me really, really busy. And so I'm not checking email all of the time. And so what that meant for me was that I, as a manager, had misread that, right? She had, and so it's a darn good thing I didn't go in there saying, hey, you're just not responsive when you work from home. That would have been the wrong approach. There was something that I, as a manager, didn't understand. And because she and I have a strong relationship, she felt comfortable saying, no, Isaac, I think you're a little wrong, very respectfully. But let's work it out. If you feel like I'm not being as responsive, let me just make me aware of it, and I'll try to do a better job of that. And so it went really well. Managers are hesitant. I'm going to tell you just one more thing. Managers are hesitant to give feedback because they don't really know how to do it. But it's a really important thing. Giving feedback is what a manager is hired to do. And so all of you guys will just have to get good at it. And there are tips and tricks to help you to do that. So anyway, that was a long answer. Sorry about that.
Cool, Norris. Yeah, that's cool. Thanks for the answer. How many questions was it? I think it was the third one, yeah, right? Okay, there's the fourth one. Is like,
Yeah.
were there a time where you argued with your customer or your employee? How did you deal with it? Like that?
So I don't really argue with customers.
Mm-hmm.
I try to understand their needs, and then I try to make sure they know what I can do for them and what I can't do for them. And then I just say, listen, I want to help you out. I understand that you want this, but I can only offer this. Will that work for you? And they often say, yeah, that's fine. I also don't really argue with my employees. What I try to do is I try to understand their perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I try to understand their needs, and I also try to express my perspective and my needs. And then we find, there's almost always common ground, and you can always work things out when you really listen and when you really share your needs. I tried to make that a shorter answer for you, Flo.
Yeah, awesome. That was good.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see the last question. See, I haven't come up with the last question yet. So, is there
me to make one up for you?
Yeah, cool. About human resources and stuff like that. Any advice you can give or something?
Yeah, human resources is an important part of an organization. So if you were asking me a question, I would say it's about technology. So let's pretend you asked me this question. What is an important skill for an HR person to have? I would say an important skill for an HR person to have is to be able to understand and leverage technology. Technology can make HR professionals' worlds so much easier. And so I'd say make sure that you understand software, how to purchase it and make purchasing decisions about software, and then how to leverage it for business insights. Was that what you were going to ask me, Flo?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, perfect.
All right, thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's Zoa's turn.
Okay, this is my turn. I am the responsible of chief operating officers. So the point is just like focus on resources, resource management. So you doing IT or program, computer programming, like creating program or creating application. And the IT business, for the IT business, what is the resources, main resources?
Main resources for IT are
Uh-huh.
your people. So your developers, without developers, it's hard to get much stuff done. There's kind of two areas for IT. One is developers, so people who are doing your programming and your coding. And the other side helps take care of your infrastructure, making sure your computers work, that you have your software, that people are being protected, your phones are working. Both are really important, and it depends on the business. Depending on the business, you may have a lot more developers than kind of traditional administrative staff. Does that answer that question, Zola?
Yeah, people is number one resource. What about the other resources?
Probably so I sell software, and so our next resource is the software that we have. That's an asset. So if you think about accounting, it's all on your accounting books. It's part of the value of the organization. So those assets are really valuable. It used to be that servers were really an important asset because organizations used to invest in those servers and they'd purchase those and rent them for a long time. Now that's becoming less and less vital because more stuff is going to the cloud. So I would say your people are your number one asset, and your second asset is the software assets that you own.
Okay, my second question is, so what is the resource management problem?
Resource management problem
For IT business.
for the IT business. You're the COO or you're the Chief Technology Officer?
COO, maybe
COO.
technology officer, maybe.
Oh, CTO, Chief Technology Officer.
Kind of, it's changed to after two. Actually, it's a COO, but for IT business, it's kind of CTO.
Okay, great. Whatever you want, whatever title you want, Zola, I think you're going to be a fantastic one. So again, the question was, tell me the question one more time.
What is the resource management problem for IT business?
So there's two scarce resources in business generally. One is time and one is money. A third might be talent. So as a COO, you want to manage the time that people are spending on things. So one of the big trends right now is automation. So just like I was telling Flo, you can buy software to help automate a bunch of these HR processes. As a COO or a CTO, you can buy software and implement processes that help you to close the books earlier. Because if you can close the books earlier every month, you can make better insight. You can have better insights about what needs to change in the business. So I would say time is a big one. And as the COO, the job is to change the operations, to improve the operations so that the things that take too long take less time. And that really helps the business.
Okay. My next question is, now is a Corona time, and how is the resource management problem negatively impacting the business?
Yeah, so there's been a lot of supply chain disruptions. Supply chain it can mean a lot of different things, but in a traditional business where you manufacture something, it means you get a component from Mike you get a component from Jane, you get a component from Sally, and all those components come into your warehouse, you put them together and you send it out to your customers, right? So supply chain types of things. And those supply chains have been really disrupted. And a lot of organizations are struggling to get the parts that they need because Sally's not in her building anymore, so she can't send you her stuff, which means that now we have to find a replacement for Sally, and that's just hard, and there's a lot of demand for that. So that's one of the big effects COVID's had. There's a lot of neat, interesting research out there around it right now.
Okay. What has the business considered in solving the resource management problem?
How have we solved a resource management problem? Gosh, I'm gonna have to think about that one. How have we solved a resource management problem? I don't know, Zola, that's a hard question. I'm gonna have to think about that. Can I answer another question? And I bet you something brilliant will come while I'm answering the other question. Or is that your last question?
Kind of last question. Yeah,
all right, well then I'm just gonna think of something. So the way we've solved a resource management problem. Let me think about my organization on the whole.
So can you tell me about a little bit CTO and like you said to Flo about like last question, like you giving advice, like something like that. Can you give advice for CTO or COO? Like, do you have any advice?
Yeah. Advice for a CTO and a COO would be to understand the CEO's vision. So I told Caden that he's got to have a vision for what he wants. And then he has to be able to articulate it. Well, it's the COO's job and it's the CTO's job to understand Caden's vision. And then they have to be able to implement it. So that means that they have to think through what it's going to take to implement the CEO's vision. And they also have to be able to paint that vision or their portion of the vision for the people that report to them. So that's the most important part. I'd say that's the most important part.
Okay, now did you find my previous question's answer?
I was hoping you'd forget. All right, so resource, we had, let me think. We had okay, yeah. So we were spending too much money on QA, on quality assurance for one of our applications, okay? Whenever you're developing a software application, the developers type the code and then you have some other people who QA it, they test it to make sure that it works. And we were just spending too much money on that. So that was a resource allocation issue. We realized that we had some internal resources that we could use to do some of that same work. So we reallocated our resources and all of a sudden we were saving time and money. And so it was just one example of changing the operations a little bit so that we could have a better functioning organization.
So I think one of the important resources is finance or money, a fund. And maybe like this time, like economic crisis happened, like because of the COVID-19, and then like, are you guys seeing like financial, like lack of money, something like that? I need to fund the money, I need to borrow money from bank, something like that. Issues happen, or in this case, what will you do?
Yeah, that's a good question. Right. So our company has a strong cash position. That's kind of how they talk about it. You have a strong cash position. We had a lot of cash, and so we aren't really hurting for funds. But I'm involved right now in a startup, and the startup is bootstrapping it, which means we're not taking investments. We're just trying to be really scrappy and trying to build out an application and solutions on the cheap. And so when it comes to getting funding, there's different ways to do it. But I will tell you this, Mike, the company that I work for, not the startup, but the company that I work for, when the markets got really tight, our funds were in bonds, right? So we had a bunch of bonds. And when the markets got crazy after COVID, we didn't have access to those bonds. Usually we could just sell those on the bond market. But the markets were such that they weren't permitting that. So we had to go to an insurance company in order to leverage the cash in the bonds because of the strangeness of the market. So there's a liquidity problem that we had, and I wasn't the one solving that, but that's how it was addressed at our company.
Okay. So my last question is very simple. Like I need to know, like you said, that spend too much money for QA. Like I understood that, for example, if I open my sales page, landing page, I have to pay for hosting and domain, something like that. You guys have to pay like hosting, domain, or server, own it, and you have to pay to like, whatever company or government. Is that true? Like, can you explain a little bit about it? Yeah.
Yeah, to host the pages.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So absolutely. So you do have to pay for some of those things. There's no real way around them. Fortunately, the cost of those things has really dropped over the years, and you can afford to do that a little bit on the cheap. So times are getting better.
Okay. Okay.
Does that answer that question, Zola?
Like I need to understand like what is the difference between hosting and server. Like program, like you guys, IT company has own server, right? Server means that I don't know. Server.
Yeah. So things get hosted on a server. So the server is the physical device that's holding the ones and zeros, and it hosts your website. They host your website. So hosting services use servers. Does that make sense?
Like yeah, you said server is a physical equipment like that, the big. And then if you have your of course you have server, and then you have to pay for server, like you said, server for the government, or just not pay because you already just bought creativity.
Zola, I couldn't catch that last part of that question. Tell me the last part of that question again.
Last part of the question is that if you have a server, and which means you have to pay for using server, or you don't have to pay. But I don't know the difference.
Oh, so if you own the server, you don't have to pay to use it. It's just built into your cost. But if somebody else is hosting your thing for you, then you pay them for the use of their server. It's like renting space on a server, like renting room in a hotel.
Uh-huh.
Did I answer it that time?
Yes.
Phew. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. What else you got, guys?
I think that's I asked all mine. Do either of you guys have any other things to ask?
No, I'm good. Thank you
Cool.
so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. Again, sorry I was late, guys. I feel badly about that. Your time is important, and so sorry to waste it. If you got other questions for me, Caden knows how to get a hold of me. But hope you guys have good luck on the paper.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, see you guys.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate you.
See you guys. Bye bye.
All right.
Okay, now we have to finish this Zoom because I need to download the recording, and then can you guys open another Zoom, and then we're gonna do the homework. Field number 4, the
Yeah,
interview.
that sounds good.
Okay.
So we can just when we go into the new Zoom, we can just use this same meeting. How about?
Just open new Zoom because I need to finish the recording. And
All right.
let's end.